Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. For the last couple of years, we've kind of just accepted this era of AI that, well, talks to us, right? We ask a question, it spits out an answer, and then we have to go do the actual heavy lifting with that answer. But what we're looking at today with Desktop Commander, it's a fundamental shift. We're unpacking the transition from AI that just chats to AI that actually executes tasks right on your machine. We're going to focus heavily today on exactly how it pulls this off.
So, for today's explainer, we're going to run through 5 key areas. We'll start with talk versus execution, then dive into how the agent executes, explore the power of MCP, look at some real-world workflows, and wrap up with pricing and access.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, Talk versus Execution.
The source material highlights a really stark contrast here. Think about standard AI assistants. They're essentially trapped in a browser, right? They can chat, they can browse the web, but ultimately they force you to be the middleman. You're the one copying, pasting code, switching over to your editor, saving the file, running the command. It's exhausting. Desktop Commander, on the other hand, actually reaches right into your system. It opens your local folders, runs terminal commands, and writes files directly to your hard drives.
It boils down to this. Most AI assistants talk, but Desktop Commander executes. It's literally the difference between having an advisor who just sits there telling you how you should organize your files and a relentless assistant who quietly organizes the whole shebang for you and says, hey, it's done.
Moving on to Section 2, How the Agent Executes.
So how does it actually do this? Well, the execution process follows a remarkably simple 4-step loop. First, you just give it a plain English prompt, something like, organize my downloads folder, or extract the data from these PDFs. Step 2, the agent takes over completely. It figures out the logic and the required steps all on its own. Step 3 is the actual execution phase, where it works across your real apps and system tools. And finally, Step 4, it brings back the exact outcome you asked for, showing you every single action it took. No black boxes here.
And what's super cool is that you aren't locked into one ecosystem. The execution engine lets you plug in whichever tops your model fits your specific workflow. If you want Opus 4.7 for deep, complex coding tasks, go for it. Prefer GPT 5.4 or Gemini 3.0? No problem. The execution engine stays exactly the same. You just swap out the brain powering it whenever you want.
Now, a massive operational difference with this execution model is data locality. Because this agent is running exactly where the work is, meaning on your local computer interacting with your local files, there is zero friction with uploading sensitive data. You aren't dragging your proprietary codebase or private financial PDFs into some random web browser. There are no round trips. Your data literally stays put, and the AI comes to the data.
Okay, Section 3, The Power of MCP.
To truly understand how Desktop Commander executes these tasks, we have to talk about MCP, which stands for Model Context Protocol. Think of MCP as the crucial bridge that finally lets these AI models break out of their isolated browser windows. It acts as an integration server, basically a standardized system that securely connects the AI's intelligence directly to your machine's file system and terminal. It's the nervous system that turns thought into action.
And you have a ton of flexibility in how you deploy this nervous system. You can use remote MCP to connect tools you might already use, like ChatGPT, Claude Web, or the Cursor IDE, directly to your machine's files. Or if you are strictly about maximum privacy, you can run local MCP via Claude Desktop or install it entirely locally via an NPX setup. Basically, you can trigger this execution from wherever you feel most comfortable working.
The evolution of this is actually fascinating. The Desktop Commander team noted in a recent blog post that by shifting away from traditional REST APIs, moving to MCPs, and then letting the AI interact directly with command line interfaces, the text-based controls of your computer, they accidentally stumbled into a completely new paradigm. By giving the AI the ability to execute commands and actually see the terminal output, they built a system capable of self-improvement. If a piece of code fails, the AI sees the exact error in the terminal, rewrites it, and tries again. It corrects itself.
Let's look at Section 4, Real-World AI Workflows.
These execution capabilities adapt incredibly well to different roles. If you're a builder, it handles prototyping and running dev scripts seamlessly. For knowledge workers, it's organizing research or managing a second brain in tools like Obsidian. Data analysts are having it rip through CSVs and log files for ad hoc analysis. And honestly, just as a pure time saver, having an agent that natively bulk converts HEIC iPhone images into JPGs or extracts PNGs from a PDF without you having to use some sketchy online converter is a massive workflow upgrade.
Just listen to this review from a user named Dependable Calls, which perfectly illustrates the scale of execution we're talking about here. They had 76 errors across 23 different files in a Svelte 5 project. Fixing that manually is an absolute nightmare, right? But when the AI has direct, surgical access to your entire local codebase through Desktop Commander, it orchestrates those fixes across the whole project simultaneously. It just goes in and does the work.
Users are also specifically calling out some brilliant technical achievements here. Another user, SP, highlighted the diff-based editing. So instead of the AI rewriting an entire 500-line file just to change one single line of code, which, by the way, burns through your token limits incredibly fast, Desktop Commander acts like a real human developer. It executes a small, surgical diff, or difference, editing only the line that needs changing. This absolutely changes the game for how long you can work with the AI in a single session.
And because of that crazy efficient execution, people are straight up abandoning fully integrated, expensive code editors. User Jesse Berstrom 5920 notes that by switching to this lightweight MCP protocol, they bypass those restrictive token limits and cascade issues entirely. They have way more freedom to just let the AI execute, coding as much as they want without the constant anxiety of hitting a paywall.
The community adoption numbers really validate this paradigm shift. We're looking at a 9.52 out of 10 user rating, over 50,000 weekly downloads, and more than 6,300 GitHub stars. The data absolutely proves that builders and professionals are desperate for tools that execute rather than just chat.
Finally, Section 5, Pricing and Access.
Getting into the logistics, Desktop Commander operates on a credits plan that starts at just $20 a month. And they've designed it to scale from that $20 entry point all the way up to $200, depending entirely on how much heavy lifting and AI execution you actually need for your specific daily workflows.
This whole structure totally removes the headache of managing your own API keys or juggling a bunch of different model subscriptions. They handle all the back-end heavy lifting while giving you completely flexible, risk-free access to those top-tier models we talked about earlier. You can change your bundle anytime, you can cancel anytime, and they even throw in free starting credits for new accounts. So you can literally watch the agent execute tasks on your own machine before you commit a dime.
Which brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. The developers behind Desktop Commander made a profound point. Computers could always do anything, but most people never knew what was possible because they didn't know the command lines. Software has always been a compromise between what we actually wanted to do and the buttons the developer decided to give us to click. But as you think about how many hours you've wasted copying, pasting, and navigating clunky menus, ask yourself this: if an AI can now perfectly execute your plain English commands directly on your machine, are we finally entering an era where our software actually just does the work for us? Thanks for tuning in, and I hope this helped you wrap your head around this massive shift in how AI executes tasks.